With the release of Yakuza 0 Director's Cut and the 20th anniversary of the Like a Dragon series, I've been thinking a lot about what prequels RGG could do, and with them most likely being a game later this year, I think there's a possibility we could get something close to some ideas that I have. So in today's video, I'll be going over my ideas on some prequels RGG could do. First off, I'll get this out of the way quickly. I made a video 2 years ago now called The Potential of Gaiden is Insane. This was back before we even knew The Man Who Erased His Name was an agent game, and well before Pirate Yakuza. So now that we know a Gaiden sub-series is a thing, but it's not quite what I thought it'd be, in just telling shorter stories to explain events in the RGG world, but rather taking a silly concept such as secret agents and pirates, and putting pre-existing RGG characters in those roles. In that video, I talked about my ideas for a Kashiwagi Gaiden set during the 70s to show some of the earlier Tojo Clan days, and a Watsei Gaiden, where we get a more in-depth look at the Omi Alliance and see Watsei's climb through the ranks, as well as who that missing chairman was between 5th Chairman Goda and 7th Chairman Kurosawa. I still really like these ideas, but I don't really see them happening anymore, sadly. Okay, so now onto the actual prequel ideas. First off is the obvious one, a Shintaro Kazama game, but not like how everyone keeps suggesting. Usually when people bring up the idea of a Kazama prequel, it's basically just Yakuza 0 again, with, oh look, Shimano, and Dojima, and everyone else. Like, that's exactly what Yakuza 0 was for. We don't need that again. Instead, I think this game should be entirely set in a Jinsho, but this time in the 70s. We'd get to have that going back in time aspect that Yakuza 0 did for Kamurocho, with stuff like the Kamurocho shopping district and West Park being open to the public, but instead for a Jinsho. The game would be entirely centered around the events leading up to the murder of Kiryu's real parents. In my video called Who Are Kiryu's Parents?, I theorised that because Kiryu's hometown is shown to be Yokohama, and Kazuma wouldn't just kill civilians, that his father could have likely been a Seiryu clan member, and his mother was killed in the crossfire. If you want to hear more about how I came to that conclusion, I'll link the video in the description. But this idea could give us a look at the older members of the Seiryu clan, as well as stuff like a younger Hoshino, and maybe some Snakeflower Triad stuff, since their base of operations is in Chinatown. I call this game Like a Dragon Sins of the Father, both because of Kazuma's act of killing Kiryu's father and hiding it from him, but also that Kiryu's biological father might have been a pretty bad guy. Wouldn't it be interesting if the final boss and main villain is Kiryu's biological father? I feel like that'd add a lot of weight to the fact that Kazuma completely changed how Kiryu would have been brought up. That if Kiryu was raised by his real father, he could have turned out as horrible or had a really rough childhood. I feel like this would be the perfect final boss for a Kazuma game. It'd be two father figures battling it out to prove their convictions. Honestly, as I read this out, I just feel myself getting hyped for a game that may never exist. Since most action RGG games tend to go for two fighting styles now, like in Judgment, Gaiden and Pirate Yakuza, I think this game should have two as well. I'd want a Hitman style, being a gun-wielding style, similar to Gunman from Ishin, but a bit more movement-based. Oh god, not him. The other one is an obvious one. It'd be the fighting style Joji Kazuma uses, but a bit more expanded upon. I don't remember where it says it, but I'm pretty sure Joji Kazuma explains that he and Shintaro Kazama both learned the same fighting style, but it makes sense that we'd be able to use it in this game. This would fill the void of a proper hand-to-hand combat style that having only a Hitman style would leave. It could be like how in the 3 games mentioned prior, they have a style suited towards crowd control and one suited towards one-on-one fights. Hitman could be the former and the martial arts one could be the latter. In terms of side content, I could see something like the Yakuza 3 Hitman missions being in this game. They'd fit well with Kazuma's whole thing and be a good money earner. Maybe they could be expanded upon with different types of missions too. I feel like this would also be our one and only chance to see what Kazuma's tattoo could be, if he even has one. The next idea I have is an Ichiban prequel. Now I know what you might be saying.
Bro, we don't even need an Ichiban prequel.
But here's what I say to that. I don't care. Personally, I'd love to see an Ichiban game set in the early 90s. A lot of people wanted Yakuza games set in the early 90s to see what happened between Yakuza 0 and Kiwami, but for me, I think a more interesting way to do it is to show it from Ichiban's perspective. This lets us visit that time period, but also add way more background information for our newest protagonist. It'd be like the Yakuza 0 for Ichiban. I'd love to see things like more time between Ichiban and Masato, like what 0 did for Kiryu and Nishiki, and stuff like why Joe Sawashiro hates Ichiban so much. Another thing this prequel idea gives us a chance to see is Ichiban bumping into some of the characters from way earlier on in the series. Maybe we could have a scene where Ichiban goes to the Arakawa family office, and Arakawa is having a talk with Kazuma. Or perhaps we could have a scene where Ichiban goes to buy his iconic red suit, and while he's there he sees Nishiki buying his white suit. They could even have an interaction where Ichiban comes off more kind and cheerful, but Nishiki is more cold and mean, showing how different they are but also how similar they are. Or maybe we could even see the man himself, Shinji Tanaka, out on his first job for the Dojima family. Honestly, with how small Kamurocho is and how many characters there are over the series, it's not out of the realm of possibility for Ichiban to have met some of these characters in a passing moment and not really remember them. Kinda like how Kiryu bumps into Ryuji in Yakuza 0. I'd really love this game to explain how or why Ichiban decides to fight in a turn-based way. Like, yeah, we know it's because of Dragon Quest, but there was surely a moment where he decided to switch up the way he fights to match a turn-based RPG. Because of this, I feel like this game could be our first and only brawler game for Ichiban. I'd love for him to have a style with the hero's bat, but he doesn't get that until chapter 4 of Like a Dragon. Maybe instead he could have a regular bat, like the one seen in the Future I Dreamed Of karaoke video. I wouldn't expect it to be as crazy as Slugger style, with all the crazy flips and stuff seen in that style. Instead, it'd be more of a fast flurry of attacks, like in the turn-based games. It'd also have to have a brawler style. For this, I'd like to see something completely original, not reusing anything from Kiryu's brawler style like Kaito's Bruise style did. Since Ichiban's combat at the start of Like a Dragon is very amateur, I'd love to see a brawler style that's a bit sillier. Maybe one of his finishing moves is him tripping up and falling onto an enemy and causing massive damage. Stuff like that would certainly make his moveset stand out more from the rest of the regular brawler-esque styles in the series. For the antagonists of this game, I think the Dojima family would be great. Since it'd be set in the early 90s, the Dojima family would still be around. We get to see how the wider family is affected by the ending of Yakuza 0, and what sort of lieutenants the family has now after the main 3 and 0 were put out of action. You're probably wondering, if the Dojima family is involved, wouldn't Ichiban have to meet Kiryu? How would that make sense given what he says in Like a Dragon? I have a very simple but effective answer to those questions. The game could take place during the time Kiryu was taken captive by the Snake Flower Triad, as seen in Kiwami. It gives us a perfect explanation as to why he's never seen, and we could possibly get some background details on why or how that even happened. The final boss could be one of the Dojima lieutenants at the time, further proving the parallels between Kiryu and Ichiban. In terms of side content, I'd love to see something that focuses on Ichiban's gaming hobby. Maybe Ichiban could run a small arcade, and for the Judgment fans out there, they could have it be the one that Higashi ends up running. Of course, later on there'd be bigger and better arcades you get, but the starting one could be the Charles Arcade. The minigame would focus on purchasing new arcade machines while also balancing the price of them. Maybe interest in certain games increases and decreases, so you could raise or lower the prices to get more money. But if you increase it too much, then people lose interest, so you'd have to keep it fair but lucrative. Maybe I'm going too in depth with this idea, but I think something like this would be really cool. And with that, that's the ideas I have for some Yakuza prequels. If you have any ideas of your own, be sure to comment them, and I'll be sure to read them. If you enjoyed this video, why not subscribe for more videos like this? And for now, I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.